It all started with a walk, a series of steps, some small, some hard, some big. Each was a step of faith, and step after step turned into a walk that led to a walk that required a high level of faith, personal investment, and a really good pair of shoes.
Hello, I'm Randy, the lead pastor of Stonebridge Church. I am so excited to be standing on the corner of where our church began. Back in the 1950s, this was just a field of corn, but families were moving into the area, and around 1958, some folks in Boone, Iowa that were leaders in the Evangelical Free Church of America thought we need to plant a church in the Cedar Hills area. 3 people came forward and dedicated $5,000 to build this chapel and buy this land. And this is where we began. In 1960, as our church was growing, there was a pastor named Richard Roeder. He literally wore out his shoes walking in these neighborhoods, inviting people to learn more about Jesus and to come to worship at Cedar Hills Evangelical Free Church. We're so grateful to God. All these years later, in 2008, we moved to our new site at Stonebridge Church. But one thing has remained the same, and that is our vision. The Lord has given us this idea that we need to continue to pursue, and that's to help everyone we meet take their next step with Jesus Christ. For 60 years we've been doing that, and we're so grateful to God for the things that He's doing.
Throughout the next few decades, the church continued to grow. Big steps of faith were being taken, both by new people coming to the church and by those within the church.
One event in particular that was really formative for the young congregation was when Becky Schlotterbeck, a daughter of one of the early families, pioneers in the church, Bob and Doris Schaefer, married Gary Schlotterbeck, and their first child, Tanya, was born weighing 1 pound 8 ounces. One of our people was a resident in the hospital at the time and worked with Becky and Tanya and said if she just weighed a pound more, she would have a much better chance of survival. As she was being transferred to the University of Iowa hospitals, the congregation gathered to pray. When she weighed in at the University of Iowa hospitals, she weighed 2 pounds 12 ounces, 4 ounces more than a pound. Becky said that was a miracle. The congregation saw it that way also, and it's an answer to their prayers. Tanya is now a wife, a mother, and a pharmacist.
I know that my life has been shaped because of all the godly people that I've known over my years growing up in the church. Humans, you know, that they definitely weren't perfect, but they were people who loved God dearly and showed their love to others too.
God's people continued to take steps of faith even throughout trials, living out Hebrews 11:1, trusting in God to fulfill His plan and His promises.
Challenges, we had many, not the least of which were financial. And I have many memories of talking with other people on giving and budgeting and things like that. There's a story that's told, I was not witness to this, but I've heard it many times, about a business meeting where the financial secretary, to give his report, lifted a briefcase up and said, "It's full of bills and we don't have any money." And that was his report. And more often than not, that was probably true. We spent a lot of time not worrying about money, but concerned about how we could maintain our ministry during that time. There were concerns, as I said, but we never worried about it, and God always seemed to see us through that.
As time went on, God continued to raise up leaders and reach more people with the gospel. New ministries were formed, and hundreds of men, women, and families began to take bigger steps of faith and grow in their walk with Jesus. A focus on both local and global missions grew and resulted in the sending and support of several full-time missionaries, as well as the development of missions partnerships throughout our community. By 2002, the church had outgrown its space and prayerfully asked God for wisdom on the next step in His plan. In faith, a new cornfield was purchased and a new facility built, again with the hope of helping more people take their next step with Jesus. Since we opened our doors as Stonebridge Church, more than 5,000 people have encountered Jesus in this space in some way. Whether through a serving event like Angel Tree, or a life group connection, or a worship gathering, people's lives are being transformed by Jesus in powerful ways. Today, we are continuing our mission to walk alongside each person we meet and help them take their next step with Jesus. By 2023, our goal is to be a blessing to our community by serving as the hands of hope to 404 under-resourced families in the 52404 zip code. We believe God has called us to share His love in tangible ways and help others step out in faith. Over the last 60 years, thousands of steps have been taken and lives have been transformed in amazing ways that only God could do. There's nothing like taking steps with Jesus and watching Him change the world. We invite you to join us on this exciting walk with God. P.S. We recommend wearing a good pair of shoes.